The X-ray showed something impossible. A faint, moving shadow deep within her skull. It wasn't a tumor or a fracture. It was something that shouldn't exist inside a human body. The girl, Sarah, never complained of a headache. Her only symptom was a sudden, overwhelming terror in crowded places. In the school hallway, the scent of old textbooks and floor wax would vanish, replaced by the sharp, metallic tang of ozone. Her skin would grow cold and clammy, a sticky film forming on her palms as a low, electrical hum filled her ears, drowning out the chatter of students. Doctors called it a severe anxiety disorder. The X-ray proved them wrong. This shadow had a rhythm. It pulsed in time with her panic, a silent passenger feeding on her fear, and the terrifying question remained. If it wasn't part of her, what was it, and what did it want? A hand shatters a mirror, glass fracturing like frozen lightning. What if every face you've ever recognized was never truly yours to know? Your own reflection becomes the deepest, most intimate enigma of your existence. This is not a gift from beyond. It is a violation from within. This is a medical nightmare. Meet the girl who has never, not once, seen the world through her own eyes. Sarah Miller was, by all accounts, a happy baby. Her laughter filled the suburban home in Columbus, Ohio. Yet, from her first breath, a profound emptiness lingered where sight should have been. A void no doctor could explain. Her world was one of touch and sound alone, a fragile existence built on whispers and the cold, clinical scent of antiseptic. She cooed and laughed, reaching for her parents, faces with perfect timing. John and Lisa Miller saw only joy, unaware of the silent anomaly forming in their daughter's developing mind. When Sarah dropped a toy, her gaze snapped instantly to her mother's face, not to the floor where it fell. This uncanny coordination was the first sign something was deeply, terribly wrong. Sarah never crawled under table legs. She never reached for steaming mugs. Her pediatrician called her remarkably observant. She seemed preternaturally aware of her surroundings, as if she perceived things others couldn't. A faint ozone scent sometimes clung to her. Her drawings weren't typical childhood scribbles. They showed intricate patterns that felt ancient and unsettling. The air grew heavy when she worked, as if reality itself thinned around her. In kindergarten, strange comments began to surface. She'd tell her mother, "I love the blue butterflies on your dress, Mommy," while Lisa wore a plain red sweater. Sarah was describing the pattern on her own dress from that morning, but seen through her teacher's eyes. Her parents dismissed it as a vivid imagination, a comforting lie, they told themselves. The truth finally fractured during a 7th grade art class with a simple assignment, a self-portrait. John's daughter would often mention, "Daddy's hair looks funny from the back." He'd laugh and ask, "How do you know?" "You're in front of me." She would just fall silent, a quiet that felt heavier than any answer. In the classroom, young Sarah sat frozen, her blank paper a stark contrast to the busy drawings around her. Her gaze darted desperately to the girl beside her, then dropped to her own trembling hands. A metallic scent, like old coins, suddenly filled her nostrils as she looked toward the window. There, in the glass, Sarah saw her reflection, but something about it felt profoundly, unnervingly wrong. She saw a girl with brown hair and green eyes, an image that wasn't her own, but stolen from the retinal data of her friend Chloe, who sat just 3 feet away, staring directly at her. When Sarah tried to draw herself, she had no primary source, no mirror, no reflection to anchor her identity. Instead, she saw only a chaotic, shifting mosaic, a fractured collage of stolen glimpses. Her own face was a ghost, assembled from the borrowed eyes of everyone around her. She broke down completely, sobbing, "I don't know what I look like anymore." The diagnosis was a 1 in a billion neurological condition called secondary visual processing. Her eyes functioned perfectly, yet her brain could no longer interpret what they saw. The very foundation of her reality had fractured, leaving her adrift in a world she could see but not comprehend. Her optic nerves were intact, but the part of her brain that should have processed the signal as her own was wired incorrectly. Instead, it was tuned to interpret visual signals from the brains of others around her. A grotesque, real-time feed of every perspective in her vicinity. Imagine seeing through the eyes of a stranger, feeling their terror, witnessing their secrets, all while your own vision remains dark. Her world became a chorus of stolen sights, each more unsettling than the last, as her mind drowned in the visions of those nearby. Light enters Sarah's eyes, but the signal is rerouted to a cluster labeled empathic visual cortex, receiving signals from icons representing other people. Dr. Archer's voiceover is grave. It's like she's a radio, but her tuner is stuck on scanning. It picks up every station broadcasting nearby. She can't turn her own station on. For Sarah, existence became a purgatory of borrowed perspectives. Through her mother's adoring gaze, her smile radiated warmth and beauty. Through a bully's sneering view, that same smile twisted into something crooked and taunting. The terrifying question that haunted her every waking moment was this: which reflection held the truth? She didn't know. The hallway became a fractured hall of mirrors, her own face staring back with alien expressions, detached pity, fleeting attraction, simmering annoyance. Every reflection held a different version of her, each wearing emotions that weren't her own. The air grew thick with the scent of old paper and something faintly metallic, like dried ink or distant rust. Intimacy was impossible. Her first kiss with Mike wasn't her own memory. It was a jumble of his anxious focus on her eyelashes and his own fantasy of a celebrity. She felt his panic, saw his delusion, but had no visual record of the moment for herself. So she became a puppeteer of perception. To truly see anything, she learned she must first guide someone else's gaze directly toward it. Sarah, now 16, stood alone in her bedroom, a heavy book in her hands. The air smelled faintly of old paper and something metallic, like iron. Her fingers traced the book's worn, damp leather cover, sticky with age. In the quiet, only the distant drip of a faucet broke the stillness. She called softly to her younger brother, Jack, her voice barely above a whisper. "Jack, come here. Look at this page." Jack stared at the page, and the text shimmered before his eyes. His own perception dissolved, replaced by a frantic, impatient skimming. He was no longer reading. He was trapped inside the mind of a 10-year-old boy, experiencing the story through a filter of restless distraction. The familiar words of her favorite novel now felt alien, viewed through a lens of childish urgency that twisted the narrative into something unsettling. Night fell, and Sarah stood alone in her bedroom. Before her, a full-length mirror lay hidden beneath a ghostly sheet. For Sarah, a mirror was never a reflection. It was a doorway, and tonight, something waited on the other side. The mirror was a portal to whoever last gazed upon her, her own reflection forever a ghost imprinted by another's memory. One night, after a school dance where the isolation had become unbearable, something in her fractured. A primal compulsion seized her. She needed to see herself, to confront the ghost in the glass. The air grew thick with the scent of old perfume and dust as she approached the mirror, her breath catching in her throat. For the first time, truly, she waited until her family's breathing settled into the heavy rhythm of sleep. The air in her room grew thick and tasted faintly of damp earth and old copper. Every rule of the curse she bore was etched into her mind, a cold, immutable law. Now, in the profound quiet, she prepared to break the most fundamental one. If no one's gaze or thoughts fell upon her, the signal might fade. The static could thin. She yanked the sheet away. Her reflection stared back from the mirror. The air grew dense and cold, carrying a faint scent of ozone and old dust. In the glass, her own eyes held a stillness that did not belong to her. For a moment, the image fractures into chaotic, blurred fragments, memories of the dance dissolving. She emptied her mind, becoming a ghost haunting her own home. The neural radio's dial slowed, its hum dropping to a faint, decaying whine. Then it ceased entirely, plunging everything into a heavy, profound quiet. The music cut out abruptly, leaving only the whisper of Sarah's breath. Her reflection wasn't hers anymore, just a vague human shape, featureless and smooth. The air in the bathroom grew thick, with the scent of ozone and cold porcelain. Sarah's voice was barely audible as she whispered to the empty face staring back. "Who are you?" The reflection's lips remained still as hers moved. It wasn't a mirror at all. It was the absence of reflection, a void where her image should have been. In that perfect, terrible silence of being unseen, Sarah Miller finally witnessed herself, and she saw nothing. Her mind was a visual void, a blank page upon which the world scribbled its impressions. She let out a hollow gasp, not a scream, but the sound of ultimate loneliness. The air carried the faint, metallic tang of ozone, cold and sharp against her skin. In that emptiness, she was not a person remembered, but a concept erased. Awakened by the noise, Jack peered into the dark hallway. Through the gloom, he saw her silhouette framed against the mirror's glass. Her reflection revealed a face etched with pure terror, eyes wide with primal despair. Then, as if a switch had been thrown, the vision snapped back to normal. Her moment of true self-vision shattered, stolen by her little brother's drowsy, worried gaze. The quiet was no longer her own. It was now filled with the weight of his innocent observation. That profound stillness, thick with unspoken understanding, receded like a tide. And in its place, the single, repeating piano note returned, a lonely echo of what was briefly understood. Sarah sat on her bed, her back turned to the mirror she kept draped in cloth. A faint, gray dawn light crept across the floorboards, hesitant and cold. She was 19 now, and she functioned a quiet, daily defiance. She had learned to navigate the relentless storm of perspectives that swirled constantly in her mind. Sarah studied psychology online, trying to map the prison of her own consciousness. The final shot finds her in a coffee shop, seated across from a new acquaintance. She holds their gaze with unsettling intensity, not from intimacy, but stark necessity. The air between them grows thick, with unspoken dread, her psychological study becoming a live experiment. She anchors herself to a single perspective, yet the question lingers. What is identity without our own story? We build ourselves from reflections, in glass, in images, in the gaze of those who know us. Sarah has none. She is a collage assembled by strangers, a portrait painted by the crowd. So here is the unsettling truth we must confront. We believe we see ourselves clearly, but how much of your own reflection is truly yours, and how much is just what you've borrowed from the way others see you. Look away from this screen for a moment. Look at your own hands. That view, is it truly your own, or could it be someone else's? The scent of ozone and damp earth thickened in the stillness. A faint, wet scratching began from the wall behind him. His breath hitched, caught between the cold, sticky air and a primal dread. The silence that followed was absolute, heavy, and final.